I'd like to call the meeting to order and welcome everyone to September 7th County Commissioner meeting, regular meeting. Seems like we got more people here tonight than we normally have, and we appreciate you all being here. And I'm going to ask Commissioner Scott Eford if he would do the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of things I was thinking about before I pray tonight. The United States just ended a 20-year war in Afghanistan, and over 2,500 people, U.S. service people, died during that war, not counting the workers and all the other folks. And this Saturday is the 20th anniversary of 9/11, and over 3,400 of New York City Fire Department folks died that day. And you get to think about, I know some military folks out here, I am, Bill, you get to thinking about that a little differently than you would if you wasn't. And a verse came to mind, is John chapter 15, verse 13. It says, "Greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends." So during this coming weekend, and all the times, I just want to remember, our military, our first responders, our EMS, and you think about it during COVID too. There is something we need to think about, and it's hard to believe it's been 20 years, but it has been. Let us pray. Our gracious Heavenly Father, we humbly come to you again, just thanking you for the love, the mercy, and the many blessings. Lord, we continue to pray for these commissioners up here, Lord, that help make decisions for the county. Lord, I pray for everyone that's fighting with COVID, that's in the hospital, that's recovering. Lord, I pray for the family members that's lost loved ones during this last year and a half. And again, I pray for our nurses, our doctors, our physical therapists, our respiratory therapists, everyone that's involved in the hospital. Lord, just wrap your loving, caring arms around them, Lord, and I especially pray for our military and their families for the ultimate sacrifices that they make. Lord, you'll just be with them, comfort them, and we give thanks in all that's said and done. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Amen. Y'all would stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Eford. I agree with you 100%. 20 years, a lot of lives affected. At this time, I ask the commissioners to please look over the agenda. And if there's any changes, please tell me what they might be, or if it's good the way it is.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I would like to, I had to make a motion that we add the Consolidated Health and Human Services Board appointment as item number 16.
Okay, a motion to add the Consolidated Health and Human Services Board appointment as item number 16. Are there any other adjustments to the agenda?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir, Commissioner.
I would like to add item O during the consent agenda for approval of fireworks for October 9th in Locust Town Center.
Okay. Item O under consent agenda, firework permission for Locust. Any other adjustments? Hearing none, I need a motion to approve the agenda with those changes.
So moved.
Motion by Vice Chairman Jordan, second by Commissioner Allman. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Agenda passes with the changes. The very first item we have tonight are public comments, and we do have two citizens who have signed up, Miss Nancy Bryant and Ron Bryant. And I'm going to ask Nancy if you would come up, introduce yourself, and tell us the topic that you would like to discuss. You can do one at a time, or you can do, okay.
one at a time.
Okay, and we do ask that you try to keep your comments to 3 minutes or less.
We will. Good evening. My name is Nancy Bryant, and I live south of Norwood. I was an active Girl Scout for some 35 years, during which I adopted our motto, "Be Prepared." So I'm here tonight to urge you and Stanley County to be prepared. Hottest record on record in July, flooding in Tennessee and our Buncombe County, mega droughts and wildfires in the west, Hurricane Ida. These disasters are not in Stanley County yet. Increasing extreme weather insurance rates going up, not yet. And yet we do see and we are experiencing changes. The slow creep of change when plants bloom. Numerous occasions when the Petey River has covered our 500-year floodplains. You know, you see. So how is Stanley preparing for the predicted ever-growing harmful effects of extreme weather? A couple personal examples. When my husband Ron and I established our farm, we wanted to be prepared. So we installed the most effective measures at the time in the building envelope. Extra overhangs to keep out the sun's rays, special wall insulation, roof insulation called radiant barrier, tents on the windows, a deep 10-foot basement that acts like geothermal, solar panels for hot water, and more. And after later adding solar panels to our barn, we actually began selling energy to Duke. And our bill now consists of fees and taxes of $19.81 a month. Here are two examples currently in Stanley County. One is the Conservation Reserve Program, for which we farmers get paid an annual rate. CRPs provide incentives for farmers to plant certain cover crops, native grasses, and hardwood trees for soil, water, wildlife, and carbon sequestration. Another is that our Stanley's Brian Simpson, Emergency Services Director, is serving on CRC's Regional Resilience Collaborative, and that will increase our ability to respond to disasters. But so much more could be done. What if our schools and government buildings installed solar on our rooftops, especially on this big flat one here, and insulated their aging building envelopes like we did at our farm to stop the outflow of energy and dollars? What if our residential developers did the same about the houses here? What if we used anticipated infrastructure monies to create more EV stations and purchase EVs for county vehicles? The solar on our barn, where we charge our used EV, is a win-win-win. We save money and Stanley County doesn't get polluted by our car. What if we worked hard to attract clean businesses that do not pollute our county's water, air, or land? What if our development plans made sure that our forests are left intact for all their benefits
Ms.
to us?
Bryan, I'm sorry.
And there is more to be said.
Thank you. Well,
Good evening. I am Ron Bryant, and I too was an active scout and adopted our motto, "Be Prepared." Now I want the community to be prepared. The beautiful rolling hills, farmlands, forests, and waters of Stanley County are what draw many of us to live, work, and play here. We want these resources to remain for our children and beyond, don't we? We must plan to conserve what we have for the future. Because Nancy and I are familiar with founding nonprofits, we could go that route, but working with the entire Stanley County community under the aegis of the County Commissioners seems a more effective route to take for this urgent matter. We've taken the liberty of drafting a proposal for the county Climate Resiliency Task Force. Unfortunately, while there is a model to guide larger urban areas, there is no model for a small rural community with very limited funding. Stanley doesn't have to wait for someone else to develop one. I'd like to read part of our proposal to you as Nancy hands you copies, if that's allowed. We propose that the Stanley County Commissioners, together with staff, create a new climate resiliency task force to address the effects of extreme weather we are experiencing now and more extreme effects that are predicted in the future. We've listed 5 significant benefits to Stanley County, which I'll not mention now for time reasons. You can evaluate those as you evaluate the proposal. This task force would actively address 3 areas. 1, research and document how severe weather events are impacting Stanley County and the actions taken to address these events by all county governmental and non-governmental agencies, businesses, and other entities. 2, create a resiliency plan for Stanley County to address predicted extreme weather events through research and engagement with multiple entities and residents. 3, recommend potential funding sources to implement the resiliency plan. The task force would consist of staff from these county agencies: Planning Department, School Board, Natural Resources Conservation Services, Emergency Services, and Cooperative Extension. 5 residents and business representatives with an applicable background or high interest in the issues. 2 co-leaders, one from the county agencies and one from the community. Next steps would be to identify county staff who would provide administrative support to the task force. The task force shall submit the resiliency plan to the County Commission for action by June 30th, 2022. Thank you for consideration.
Next item on the agenda is Community Transportation Program, fiscal year 23. Presenter is Mr. Randy Shank.
Good evening. Hope everybody's well this evening. Mr. Chairman and all the commissioners, hope you have a good evening. I'm here to present the annual 5311 Community Transportation Program public hearing. The 5311 Community Transportation Program consists of 2 specific grants, one being administrative, as you can see broken down on the agenda item, and the other being the capital item. For the fiscal year 23, which is what we're holding this public hearing for, the administrative funds that are being requested are $247,201, of which 15% is a local match for Stanley County. The amount, our part in the county would be $37,081, and that would be used to cover salaries and benefits for 3 full-time and 1 part-timer staff, which also includes insurance, retirement, longevity, workman's comp. So it's not just straight salary. There's all the fringe benefits that go along with the salary. It also covers the vehicle insurance, which is of this particular grant, I plan on using $40,479 for the vehicle insurance for 18 vehicles, and it covers drug testing and daily operations and also advertising. For the capital section, I'm only going to request 1 vehicle in that particular fiscal year. It is a 22-foot LTV that is estimated to cost $76,370, with a 10% local match being $7,637. That would also include lettering on that vehicle. So what I'm here for is to seek approval to apply for and receive those community transportation program funds, which will be administered by the Transportation Department. Again, the total for both grants is $323,571, and the local match would be $44,718 total.
Any questions of Mr. Shank? Randy, I do have a question or
Sure.
two. Are these administrative fund grants, are these like on annual basis? Or?
They are.
Okay.
Yeah, each year, and actually it's a little bit misleading because this is the amount that is proposed, that is given to us, and we budget for that. So I have to go through and lay out the budget. we come through the hearing, and then once that's approved, then it's approved through the DOT. And so it's kind of a set amount. It's not a random amount. I didn't make the amount up. It's what's presented to us.
Okay. And then the second question I have, you're talking about a vehicle, LTV. What does LTV stand for?
Light transit vehicle.
Light.
I guess
transit vehicle.
22 footers. But this one is unique because it'll hold 14, and that means I don't have to have a CDL driver. So it's getting hard to, as you're all aware of, finding help right now is difficult, and to find somebody with that specific CDL license is even more difficult. So this will be nice because it holds 14, which keeps it under the threshold.
Thank you. Any other questions?
15.
Any other questions? Well, we need a public hearing, so I'll declare the public hearing open. Is there anyone here to speak for or against these particular grants? If so, please step forward, state your name, whether you're for it or against it. Randy, I don't see anybody moving.
It's hard to be against money, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah. So I'll declare the public hearing closed. What's the pleasure of the commission board?
I make a motion that we approve the community transportation program funds.
I got a first by Commissioner Shuto, a second by Vice Chairman Jordan. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you. You're still up,
I am.
by the way.
I see that. Probably this particular agenda item probably should have gone before the other if I'd have thought about it correctly. But basically, this is a resolution that has to be completed every 5 years. And if we look at the bullets there, it's a designee certification form, and basically the attached 5311 designee certification form is required to allow an entity, which in this case is SCUSA, or the Transportation Department, the capability to apply for and receive those 5311 grant monies that I talked about in the previous item for a period of 5 years. The resolution will allow basically the County of Stanley to apply for and receive those funds. And we continue on, it says the approved resolution authorizes the filing of applications with the NCDOT Integrated Mobility Division for federal assistance authorized by 49 U.S.C. 5311 United States Code, other federal statutes administered by the FTA, or state statutes administered by the state of North Carolina. So basically, without this certification, I really can't apply for and receive those funds that we just talked about.
You need certification approved.
I just need approval from the board.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make the motion that we approve the 5311 designee certification form to allow SCUSA to continue to apply for 5311 grant funds.
Have a second, Commissioner Allman. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you much.
Hey, thank you, Randy.
Have a good day.
The next item on the agenda is the NCDOT fiscal year 23 5310 capital purchase of service grant public hearing and program resolution by Ms. Pamela Sullivan, who is the Senior Services Director. Welcome, Pamela.
Well, thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you, Mr. Lawhon. I'm here to request the approval for the 5310 capital purchase of service grant with the North Carolina Department of Transportation. This is the capital purchase of service grant. We are requesting $60,000, which will expand transportation services for older adults 65 and older in the county. This grant allows us to purchase additional transportation service from SCUSA and provide more service such as medically fragile and nutritionally needy seniors in Stanley County, transportation to medically related appointments such as dialysis or to the nutrition sites, maybe adult day respite care or other needed trips that is considered through the Senior Services Department. This just goes above the HCCBG funds that would allow us. We have a 10% local match, which comes out of the HCCBG grant that the department has already received. So I'm here tonight to request the approval for the program resolution along with a public hearing to receive comments.
Any questions of Ms. Sullivan? Anybody wants to ask any questions? So we do need a public hearing. So I'll declare the public hearing open. If there's anyone out there that would like to come forward and speak for or against, now's your time. See anybody rushing to get up here, so I'll declare the public hearing closed. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make the approve NCDOT FY 23-5310 capital purchase of service.
Motion by Commissioner Furr, second by Vice Chairman Jordan. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Pam. Next on the agenda is a public hearing economic development incentive grant. Ms. Candace Louder, the EDC Director. Welcome, Candace.
Thank you. Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. Come before you tonight on behalf of the Economic Development Commission to request support for an economic development grant totaling 75% of taxes on new investment for 8 years for a company that is considering locating a facility within the town of Baden to manufacture pipe and metal fitting components. This project will create approximately 40 new jobs with salaries above the county average and will result in new taxable investments of at least $7.75 million in machinery and equipment over the next 5 years. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about the project and I appreciate your consideration of this request.
Any questions?
Just a comment, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Candace, thank you and your board for all that you guys do. People don't understand maybe how hard it is to recruit some of these companies to come here, but this is a possibility for a company to come in here and spend almost $8 million and get 40 jobs. It's pretty awesome, and you've been doing a fantastic job in the last, 2 years of repeating this miracle again and again. So thank you guys for what you're doing.
Thank you.
Good comment. Any other questions, comments? Don't hear any, so we're going to declare the public hearing open. If you would like to come forward and talk positive or negative about this economic incentive, now's the time. And I echo what Vice Chairman Jordan said.
Thank you.
I wish we could tell people more about all the jobs that have committed. It's great.
Can, just not till later.
Yeah. Yeah. I declare the public hearing closed. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chair, make a motion to approve an economic incentive to equal 75% of taxes for 8 years with a minimum investment $7,750,000, resulting in creation of 40 new jobs.
Motion by Commissioner Almond, second by Vice Chairman Jordan. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Candace. You're still up.
Still here.
Go for it.
All right, thank you. Enclosed in your meeting package, you should have an authorizing resolution for the North Carolina Department of Commerce Building Reuse Program for a project sub. This resolution will authorize staff to execute all application and reporting documents required for a building reuse grant for the North Carolina Department of Commerce to support this project. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about the resolution or the building reuse program, and thank you again in advance for your consideration.
Any questions of Candace, or either any questions about the authorization resolution? Don't hear any questions. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, Commissioner Eford.
I make a motion, we adopt the resolution from the North Carolina Commerce Building Reuse Grant Program.
Have a second by Commissioner Barbie. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Library Card Sign Up Month Proclamation. Melanie Halls, Library Director. Welcome, Melanie.
Thank you. Brought a few props. Library Card Sign Up Month. Come to you this evening to share with you the importance of everybody, especially students in the county, getting library cards. And to that end, we've got a few activities going on this month. We've got these lovely yard signs that the Friends of the Library purchased for us that we are giving to library card holders to put in their front yard so that as we drive around the county, everybody can see if they're a library supporter. We are also giving away a couple of Kindle Fires that we hope people will use to check out the ebooks that we have through the library. There's 2 ways to win a Kindle Fire. The first is to sign up for your first ever library card. So this is especially pertinent to grade schoolers who've never had a library card before. If they come in, anybody who comes in during the month to get their first library card is automatically entered to win a Kindle Fire. And then we also have a bingo game that we are offering to everybody who comes in and uses the library through the month. And if they get a bingo, then they get entered into a drawing for Kindle Fire. But the main reason I'm here before you tonight is hoping that you will approve a proclamation for Stanley County that September is Library Card Sign-Up Month. You want me to read it to you?
You'd like?
I would like to, yes. Whereas a library card is the most essential school supply of all, whereas libraries and librarians play a crucial role in the education and development of children, whereas libraries offer a variety of programs to stimulate an interest in reading and learning, whereas library resources serve students of all ages from early literacy to educational programs to research databases, whereas signing up for a library card is the first step on the path towards academic achievement and lifelong learning, whereas a library card gives students the tools that foster success in the classroom and beyond, whereas librarians create welcoming and inclusive spaces for students of all backgrounds to learn together and engage with one another, whereas a library card empowers all people to pursue their dreams and explore new passions and interests, and whereas libraries are constantly transforming and expanding services to meet the evolving needs of their communities. Therefore, be it resolved, the Stanley County Board of Commissioners proclaims September as Library Card Sign-Up Month in Stanley County and encourage everyone to sign up for their own library card today.
Thank you. Any questions of Melanie? Go for it.
I would love to see maybe on the county page or on some of the county department pages, spread the word out there a little bit that these libraries now have access to things like audiobooks, Kindle books. Most people don't know that. I've been an avid audiophile for years, and I've probably been doing it for 10 years before I knew that you could even do that. So there's more to using the library than just walking in that building and checking something out. And a personal story, and I'll make it brief. Most of you that have heard me talk for any period of time know that I stutter. So growing up, it was really rough being young and being shy about it. So I didn't talk, which y'all would probably love now. I shut up a lot more. But I read a lot. And I would walk to the Manio library on the way home from school to Mom's office. And they wouldn't let a 12-year-old boy check out Stephen King's Christine. But they would let me check out Nancy Drew. So the librarian saw me with Nancy Drew. She didn't see me go stick Christine in my backpack and stick out with it. But so I stole every Stephen King novel Dare County Library had. I returned them all, but I stole them and walked past the library with my Nancy Drew book going, see, look, I did read Nancy Drew too.
I love that story.
I like
That's
Stephen
great.
King way better. But thank you for what you guys do. You're a service that's not as, unfortunately, not as utilized much in the modern age, but still very important.
Yeah, we're still there.
As long as you bring them back. In my own guilt, when I moved here to Stanley County, my wife decided we had having a book, so every bookcase I had a substantial amount of bookcases. I dropped a pickup truck of stuff off to your library back in 2010, so I paid my debt back with interest.
Please check your records and make sure Tommy Jordan is current on all his
I'll do
books.
that, yeah.
Any other questions?
Send that information out to us.
Certainly. I'd be happy to.
Mr. Chairman, I make the motion we proclaim September 2021 Library Card Sign-Up Month in Stanley County.
Second.
Got a motion by Vice Chairman Jordan, second by Commissioner Shuto. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, Melanie.
Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Bailey Emery. Planning and zoning.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you for having me. Give me 1 second. I'm going to pull this slideshow up for y'all. All right. Okay, I hope you all had a good long weekend. The first thing we have before y'all is a request for a rezoning. Jeffrey Chandler has requested this rezoning on a parcel that he owns off of US 52 in New London, located directly at 39753 US 52. It's currently zoned RA, which is residential agricultural, and he requests to rezone it to HB, which is highway business. It currently contains 1.24 acres. There are two separate structures on the property, and I'll just go ahead and slide through these. This is the zone map, as you can tell, the adjoining parcel to it is also zoned highway business. Across the street is Albemarle Highway Industrial, and then on the other side, across from the railroad, is New London M1, which is light industrial. And this is just an aerial view, as you can see. The two structures, there's one on the rear of the property back there. And these are the structures that are there. One was a home, and then one was a shop. It is located in a growth area per the 2010 Stanley County Land Use Plan, and there is public water available in 52. All the neighbors that are within 100 feet were notified. They were sent a letter and a map and an agenda as well. The parcel obviously currently lies on the outside of both the city of Albemarle and the town of New London. If the parcel is rezoned to highway business, it must comply with the list of permitted uses in section 607, as well as the setback requirements in 701. Any potential commercial use in this district will have to provide a site plan that shows parking spaces, buffers, and vegetation. There are 15,000 vehicles per day on 52. The planning board did recommend approval 5-1 that night. And the existing buildings, if they were kept, I know he mentioned that maybe the home would be torn down, but if they are kept, they would have to meet commercial code as far as that's concerned. And I am happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Bailey? Don't have any. This does require a public hearing, so I'll declare the public hearing open. Anyone wishing to speak for this rezoning, please come forward. Don't see anyone. Anyone here to speak against the rezoning, please come forward. State your name and give us the reasons you're against.
I hope everybody had a good weekend. I'm Jeff Chandler, and I'm speaking for. I'm wanting to have it rezoned. My sister and myself acquired this land from my dad. He passed away a year and a half ago, and that's what he left us. And like everybody here, if you got something for sale, you want to make all you can. I've talked to several people. I've talked with Clayton Homes. They're interested in purchasing the land for Clayton Connect, which is a truck hub to park their tractor trailers and their lead cars to pull houses from the Richfield plant and the Rockwell plant. I have spoken with 2 different realtors, and everybody says that I need to have this rezoned, as I'm trying to do. And Mr. Barbie, that owns the tractor place beside of us, on the south side of us, has also approached me 3 times wanting to purchase the land. Do y'all have any questions for me?
I do have a question. I know you were talking about Clayton Homes might be interested in leasing it.
No, buying it.
Buying it, okay.
I have no intentions of renting it or leasing it. Our intentions are to sell it.
And I know I read the minutes from the zoning board.
Yes, sir.
Stated the house was going to be torn down.
It needs to be torn down. It does.
And then the second building is a garage that I guess would be.
It needs updating, but it's a good, nice building to be updated.
So what I understand is you want it rezoned to highway business.
Yes,
so
sir.
you can market it as highway business and
Yes, sir.
sell it.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone here to speak against the rezoning, please step forward, state your name and the reasons why. Don't see anyone, so I will declare the public hearing closed. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I move that ZA 21-09, a request by Jeffrey Chandler to rezone a 1.24 acre parcel of land located at 37953 US 52 New London from residential agriculture to highway business be approved because it is consistent with the Stanley County Land Use Plan due to its location in a growth area.
Second.
First by Commissioner Eford, second by Commissioner Allman.
Pick one.
Can't call on Tommy because he's past you at the library. Shame on you. Okay, no other discussion, so let's vote on it. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next on the agenda, Bob Remsburg. He's going to talk with us about short-term rental text amendments.
Exactly. Everyone wants to know about this. Good evening, Commissioners. Chairman Lawhon, good to see you this evening. We've had a few requests over the past couple of years dealing with short-term rentals. We more commonly probably refer to them as Airbnbs, Vrbo, other Booking.com, and so on, starting to venture into this area. We occasionally get one of these popping up. Sometimes they last for a long time, sometimes they don't. But our ordinance really didn't address this. We brought this before the Planning Board way back in February, and they agreed that this is language that we should adopt at that point, and they approved that. I believe there were 6 at that meeting, 6 to nothing. But there was kind of foreseen that there was a need. So we're kind of trying to get ahead of the curve because these are growing in popularity. Again, we've had a few issues with them and luckily been able to deal with those issues through building code, but not through zoning. But again, as this is a growing in popularity, this would clear up some issues and allow them in our residential districts, but establish some rules and parameters that they would need to follow. So that was the goal of putting this language before you. We delayed it from February because we had all the 160D material and information before you over the last few months and decided let's hold this until after we get through all of the adjustments to the ordinance that were required and bring this new bit to you at this point. So with that, it doesn't affect other transit lodging, hotels, formal, regular bed and breakfasts that are allowed in I believe, only the R10 district, so kind of limited there. But these are starting, again, to appear in different places in the county, and we thought this would be appropriate language to use. It came from the School of Government. They had drafted this language for the town of Edenton. We took that just to borrow from what we thought was a good source and clean it up and make it appropriate for Stanley County. So I'll be glad to answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions for Bob?
Bob, what is it? You use me for an example, a 2,500 square foot, two-story home with a gravel driveway. What does this do to your average person? What hoops do they have to jump through to become a VRBO or list themselves?
Right.
How much is this fee? How long is the process?
Well, the process is simple. It's a basic application to the planning staff, so it doesn't have to go before the Board of Adjustment or anything.
Fill it out and bring it in?
Fill out and bring it in. The other part of that is they do need to notify their neighbors, kind of just like we kind of notify for a public hearing, but it's just a notification. This way the neighbors will know this house, this location is being used as a bed and breakfast. If I see people wandering in and out, cars I don't recognize.
You're not getting permission, you're just letting them know.
That's right. So that, so they're aware of the situation in the neighborhood. So that was kind of the idea behind that component of it. It also requires that if you are an absent, say it's your house, but you live in Raleigh, but you own a property here and you want to rent it. Well, if there's an emergency or the plumbing's starting to leak or something, who deals with that? Well, you're 2.5 hours away in Raleigh, so this requires that you have a local person who is responsible for maintaining, responding to emergencies and what have you at that building. And that person is it's on the wall of the house or whatever, it's in the guest book, so you can, if you're a guest there staying, you can have a number to call if there's an emergency or an action. Just to provide a certain level of service to people that may be visiting Stanley County.
What's the fee for filing the application?
I'm gonna have to look back and think. This goes way back to, let's see, or even if there is, I don't think we established one actually. And I apologize for not knowing the answer to that immediately.
Yeah, I was going to say, I noticed there was an application fee mentioned, but it doesn't say what it was.
Well, and any application fees are set by you as a board and through the annual budgeting process, we set our fees. So we may need to go back and establish that.
And it says in there, if it's not used for 180 days, the permit will be
expired.
Does that mean if I choose to have an Airbnb in my house and rent my upstairs bedroom, if I don't do it for 6 months, I had to reapply?
That's right. That's right.
Bob, I know there's several houses on Lake Tillery that are Airbnbs. And I'm not sure if they're just Airbnbs 4 or 5 months and then people live the remainder of the time in them.
Right.
But it's like what Tommy said, if it's 6 months, nobody, let's say I wanted to rent my house. I want to just do it during May, June, July, August.
Right.
Then I'm going to live in it the rest of the time.
Right.
But this 180 days.
And I got to come back down here every year, fill out a new paperwork, do the.
Right.
I'd rather see that done, at least make it a year.
Okay. Well, and you have, we can edit in place if it's not a
I agree with
significant
that.
thing, so.
But I also think we need to know what fee you propose for the application fee, and is that fee a one-time fee?
Yes.
Or is it an annual fee?
No, cannot be an annual fee. It would be a one-time fee.
But it'd be a one-time every time. it
One-time
lapsed.
fee,
Because if it lapsed, you got to come back and apply again, right?
that would be correct. So, again, we can adjust the language to 1 year as opposed to 180 days
Is there
or
any
whatever you would
difference
say.
here between, is there anything in here that lays out, and please forgive me for not having a chance to
Right.
follow up as much as I should have, but it's my job to be more versed. This didn't look like the big important thing in my agenda tonight, so I didn't give it the attention I should have.
You're good.
Is there anything that treats me renting my bedroom and my house different than me renting the whole house?
No.
Okay, so it's good. I mean, it's kind of a blanket policy for everything from house rentals to VRBO to Airbnb to, all right?
Yep.
I'd like to see this go back and maybe, come up with a fee. I mean, I wouldn't really want to see more than $100 myself.
Right. And we can, and again, we can establish, I think we could probably establish that at this point, and that's, I'm trying to rack my brain.
How many people we have in the county that do this? Anybody know? I've thought about it. I mean, I've just kind of tossed the idea around before. I just didn't know I had to do any kind of special thing to
It's
do it.
becoming a bigger problem in like subdivisions than it is on lakes and resort areas. You have people that, might work out of town for 6 months and you live beside of, and you got a different neighbor every couple months. And
Well, there's an Airbnb in Stanley County that says you can pay $110 a night and come help work his field and sleep in the barn. Just be up there for you.
it's becoming more of an issue, and other municipalities are going to have to adopt some type of
Well,
plan for this.
and really, the only reason for a fee is really to cover some of our administrative costs. So, I'm fine with even $50, is because that's what we, that's what we charge for a basic house building permit, for instance. If it was having to go before a board, if we were having to take it before the Board of Adjustment, I'd certainly say $200, because every time we call that board together, it costs us over $400 to have that board meeting. But without a board meeting, it's something that becomes a staff review item. I think $50 is sufficient. So again, we can send it back and we can do that if you wish, or you can just go ahead and say, as part of your motion, I think you could add that the fee would be $50.
Bob, I've got another question though.
Sure.
On page 39, number 1, maximum overnight occupancy.
Correct.
Down in that paragraph, it talks about the maximum overnight occupancy shall be equal to the design load of the septic system. How about interpreting the design load of the septic system to me?
I'm happy to report that is the job of the Environmental Health Department, not my job.
Well,
However,
it needs to be more specific, because seriously, those houses on the lake, the majority of them have septic systems.
right, and the
Have it be specific for each house. I mean, it'd have to be
What-
on a house-by-house basis based on the number of
Bedrooms.
rooms and bedrooms.
it's number of bedrooms, and the soil conditions. So as long as those records exist, then that would be established by the Environmental Health Department as far as what that capacity would be. And
To me, that needs to be clearer than
It needs to be something you wouldn't have
design
to
load
contact
of the
EPA to figure
septic
out.
system. I mean,
The problem is you wouldn't know from house to house what that capacity is. I mean, it could vary, that whole thing could vary.
Didn't it have to pass an inspection when it was built based on the number of bedrooms?
It did, but
Yes.
you'd have to, how would you put that into this policy then to know?
1 car per bedroom? If it's, two people per bedroom. I mean, if it's a 2-bedroom house, that bedroom was designed for at most 2 occupants. It was not designed for 4, right?
said two persons per bedroom, plus 2 additional persons.
So
Well,
a
I mean-
4-bedroom house could have 10 people max.
Now, the way I read it, it says 2 people per bedroom,
Right.
plus 2 additional persons. So if you got a 2-bedroom house, that's 8 people.
8 people.
6.
8. Two per bedroom, two additional per bedroom.
Oh, 2 additional per bedroom. I read that as 2 per bedroom plus 2, I was figuring like sofa and recliner, but okay, so, yes, so it is a little bit.
Well, and I mean, the other issue there is if you have young children,
Right.
so.
Maybe we, kick this back a little bit and let's.
Mr. Chair, I have a few questions for Mr. Remsburg.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Jordan was referencing one in my neighborhood a second ago, and I've got so many calls about it.
Yes.
Renting out the barn,
Right.
renting out the field for
Right.
tents, like concerts out there at 2 in the
Right.
morning. Like, list goes on. Traffic, weddings out there.
Right.
I'm just wanting to know if we can ask the board to do something about that. The planning board, that is. Address that in the Airbnb or VRBO ordinance.
Well, there,
Here, special events, including wedding receptions, are not permitted,
right.
but I don't know if they got to stop the people you're talking about the field out.
Well, and that is the reason the language is in here, partly because of the experiences that have happened out there. In order for someone to have a wedding venue, that has to be if it's zoned RA, which much of the county is zoned RA, it's a special use permit before the Board of Adjustment. So, and the Board of Adjustment can establish rules and steps for that. If they're holding them at a property that's, say, approved as a short-term rental, that's a violation of this whole contract, the whole deal. So it becomes a zoning violation.
I know we've had
Right.
3 ways I can think of to violate that. I didn't know.
Well, if you individually, a one-time deal, it's your family that's holding the wedding on your property, that's not a problem. If you're a wedding venue that gets used 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 50 times a year, then that's a business, so that's a different story. So if you, nothing's going to stop you from getting married in your own backyard. You can certainly do that. But if you're dealing with an operating business type situation, and a Airbnb is a business, so if you're doing that and they're doing weddings on the side, that's not in this language proposed. That would have to be a special use permit through the Board of Adjustment. And we have a number of those through the county. They exist, but each situation, in fact, we have a case next Monday night before the Board of Adjustment, so we'll look at that, and they'll have to look at that particular situation. The neighbors can come and express their concerns if they want to, and then you can, they can, and that board can tweak it right there and then there to say, hey, if the owner's agreeable, we can set these parameters. So, but that's why this is separate. So this does not allow for a wedding venue, concerts, noise at night. It talks about the anti-noise ordinance that the county has. You can't violate that. But we'd be glad to take it back, tweak a couple of things that you've mentioned. If there's anything else, certainly you can mention it now or send it to me later.
I'd like to really spend some time and dive into this itself.
Well, I do think this is important to add to our ordinance, just to be prepared. I spoke with Mr. Efer just a little while ago, and I know Locust is looking at it too, I think now, because this is something, it's a growing trend, and what we really do want to avoid is having, I guess I'll say, party houses where people rent them to throw a big outdoor event or something like that. So that's needs to be a separate part of the ordinance, separate thing.
And I'm from the area down the Outer Banks where that's a problem. Where,
Yeah.
in fact, my wife and I just almost got in trouble this year because the homeowner we rented from tried to throw it back on us about a septic problem. You have a house built in the 80s that was built to hold 6 people. They're renting it to 17 people a week.
Mm-hmm.
The house wasn't designed for that.
Right.
The septic system wasn't designed for that. I filed that under not my problem. You rented it, but I don't want that to be a problem here. Then it would be our problem.
Yeah.
So I know it's not going to be a big thing in Stanley, but
Well,
I mean, it deserves some more thought.
Right.
Do you want to make a motion?
I guess make a motion that they take it back and table, yeah, I make the motion we table it for one session.
Okay, and I'm going to ask this, we can certainly do that. Do you want to, should you proceed, since it's been advertised, should you proceed with the public hearing?
Sure.
Do that.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Right. Don't have to re-advertise.
Motion so I can do public hearing.
I withdraw my motion, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Public hearing's open. Anybody here to speak for or against? Short-term rental rules is what I'm gonna call it. Amendment, text amendment. See anybody? Public hearing's closed.
I'm going to make the motion we table this for one meeting.
Okay, got a motion to table it and let Bob and his staff tweak it. Second. Commissioner Burr, any other questions? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Mr. Chandler? Dale Chandler, EMS Training Officer.
Good evening, gentlemen. Just give me 1 second to get this pulled up. All righty, I'm here this evening to present a proposal for your consideration for acquisition of new cardiac monitors for EMS. We're kind of at a unique crossroads right now. Our current monitors are about 10 years old. They're running off of a 12-year-old platform technologically. Over the period that we've had them, there's been some software upgrades, but they're released kind of sporadically, and they're only done annually when those are released by the company. We've had some delay in repairs even before COVID. We do have one monitor that's been at the depot for over a year for repair and has not been returned to us. The unfortunate part with cardiac monitors is you have to get them repaired through your vendors just because nobody else can fix them. We currently have 8 devices that are beyond their serviceable life, so they'll no longer receive upgrades or repairs. So if they happen to have some damages or things just go wrong with them, they're no longer repairable just because they're past that 10-year threshold. The one thing is we've been married to LifePaks for quite some time. The one thing that's concerning for us is there's no new solution from the current vendor on the horizon. And in 2021, we understand that technology is ever evolving and we need to have something out there for our agency to progress. So we did develop a committee with our field training officers for some options that were out there. We were made aware of pretty much only 2 options other than our current vendor on the market. One is the Philips Tempest Pro and the other is the Zoll X series. So we did some investigative digging on these. With the Zoll X series, the total implementation of the project for those would be $485,200.40. And then, of course, service maintenance is what we do currently pay for every year on our cardiac monitors. Yes, sir.
How many does that buy?
How many does that buy? It will buy 16. So it will upgrade us from our current 10 to 16 because over the process we've grown, we've added CPs, we've added extra staff vehicles that are response ready. So we do need to grow our current cash from 10 to 16. Service maintenance, of course, on all of these items for the Zoll X series would account to $86,624 for a 5-year period broken out over, I believe it's 4 installments. The first year from Zoll is covered under manufacturer warranty. So with that, you are getting bumper-to-bumper coverage for the devices should damage occur, and also your yearly performance evaluations by the vendor. One thing that this does offer that our current vendor does not, should one of our monitors need to go down for serviceable repairs at the depot, they will overnight us a loaner monitor until ours is fixed. So we're not going down without devices. Currently, if we have a device go down, we're just short of that device. They don't offer a solution. So benefits of this device, it is extremely lightweight. Newer technology, it's a 9-year-old platform versus a 12-year-old platform. It allows for data transmission, but it's a few additional steps to transmit to the hospitals for our providers. And the upgrades are performed annually or as needed. So if a new upgrade is released, they will have to come out to the site to upgrade the monitors themselves. The Tempest Pro from Philips, is a little more expensive. It's got a project implementation of $512,620.20. Service maintenance is a little bit cheaper for those. It's at $79,476. It does include the same exact coverages that I did express with the Zoll X series. So those devices, should they break, they're covered bumper to bumper, just short of complete damage that they're not repairable. They will ship us an overnight loaner to do the same things. Benefits of this device, it is lightweight as well. It's about the same weight as the Zoll X series. It does boast some mil-spec ruggedness and military spec encryption as well, so it's a very secure device. It does have an extremely user-friendly platform. The menus are very intuitive, and they can be customized by our agency. It allows for a seamless transition, so it connects with the Wi-Fi that's already built into the trucks. So anywhere that you have an internet connection, medical direction, administration can actually look at the monitor, do tests and evaluations to see if there's any issues. It has an operating system platform that integrates for a cloud-based platform. And it also has updates that are released sporadically throughout the year. They try to do 2 major updates per year with multiple software updates annually. I actually got an email today. One of the updates was released on Friday, so they're very frequent on their updates, and they're very simple. There does not have to have a technician come out on site. As long as there's an internet connection, we can fix our monitors remotely with the updates. So our committee met. They did several days of evaluations with both devices. They were able to use them, try to break them, things like that. Both were good solutions. The difference we did find was $20,271.80. They did recommend the Tempus Pro over the X Series just because of the features and the usability. We do understand that it is a little bit more of a cost, but with these we do get video laryngoscopy, which is a tool that we currently have on our ambulances. They are nearing their end of life as well, so it's a project on the horizon for us to be replacing. That project would run us about $114,560, so basically we're getting that project for that $20,000 difference based off of the discounts we're getting from Philips. They are going to offer us a lease deal, 0% interest with a $1 purchase option at the end of that 5-year lease. Like we said, it's very user-friendly. We do have the ability to tie in telemedicine, which is on the horizon for EMS reform in the near future. Like we said, built-in video laryngoscopy for improved intubation outcomes. And the thing that we did find out through our research is it's got backing from 2 of the larger EMS systems in the state. They are actually going to this device, one of which is actually Mecklenburg County. And it is also currently the device used by the United States Special Forces. So it is proven to take the beatings that will come in the EMS environment.
Does this piece of equipment allow you to completely replace the laryngoscopy equipment you have now?
Yes, sir, it does.
So it doesn't just do some of that job, it does it all?
It does it all, yes, sir. This feature also allows bidirectional communication with the hospitals with the cloud platform. Our receiving facilities can actually see our monitor, and our crews can actually communicate with the physicians through the cardiac monitors. So it takes an extra step out that they have to worry about in these emergent situations. It also allows for an increased ability for data tracking and improved QA processes, and honestly, at the end of the day, that's going to improve our patient outcomes. One thing I will say about Philips, throughout this process, they've had excellent customer service, and with the platforms on this device, they've kind of cornered the market on how to make the operating system update quite frequently, and it makes that process very easy for us that we're not waiting on technicians to come out of Rocky Mount to fix monitors. They can actually log in remotely and fix most of our problems. With this, Philips has a model that they use third-party vendors, so we're not having to call a corporate office. I actually have the guy's cell phone number that services our stuff, and I can call him at 3 o'clock in the morning, and he's going to fix our issues. So some budget impacts moving forward. Of course, this year we had $49,641 budgeted for the replacement of 2 LifePak monitors. They were refurb units. So they did meet that budget constraint to make no changes for this year. So the cost this year will be $49,500 for the first payment. Then fiscal year 23, the payment would be $102,915.56. The one thing with Philips is they do take their 5-year service maintenance plan at $79,476. I did do some math crunching, and per unit, that is actually about half of what we're paying now to our current vendor. It will give us that 5-year coverage bumper-to-bumper serviceability. Fiscal year 24, we're going to be at the same number as well as 25 and 26. We gave them a $100,000 target for our yearly payments, and they met that. So it would actually make a sixth payment in fiscal year 27 for $51,457.96. There is the ability, though, if you guys see fit, we can disperse those and take that last year off and add that up. That cost would come up from $102,000 to $115,000 roughly. So that's just completely the pleasure of you guys in county administration. Do you guys have any questions for us?
Any questions? And you say the lease is at 0%?
Yes, sir. 0% interest with a $1 buyout at the end of the 5-year period.
Expenses we've got currently with all equipment, there's not going to be much difference in increase from the payments we're talking about.
You're roughly, so what we're coming to with this, if we don't do this next budget year, we're going to have to replace our whole entire fleet of monitors regardless. And we're going to be at this conversation again in July if we make it that long without our monitors breaking. We had 3 fail last week, so it's kind of the issue we're at right now.
The company you're going to lease these through, have they been around a long time?
We're leasing them directly from the manufacturer.
Okay.
The lease deal is through.
The manufacturer been around a long time?
Yes, sir. They have multiple medical components in hospitals. Philips had monitors with Mecklenburg County, Rowan County, Cabarrus County. Up until a few years ago, they pulled their monitors off the market to develop this one. So they took back, did 2 years of R&D and developed this solution from the previous version they did have. So yes, Philips has been around for a while.
Did they give you any references to call, check on them?
They did not. We kind of did our own soul searching on this one. We called some contacts in Mecklenburg County, spoke with some people. New Hanover is the other county that's going with it. And everybody that had Philips in the past was very pleased with them. So, you know, no, they did not give us references, but we found them on our own. So generally that goes better than waiting on their word for their references. So every agency that we spoke to highly recommends Philips. They said they're a good company, they're a reputable company, and our ultrasound machines that we already have are Philips as well. So we actually currently have Philips devices on our units.
Any other questions? I believe so. Thank you for the presentation.
Absolutely.
We have a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make the motion that we allow them to move ahead with the Philips Tempest Pro solution and let the financing options, be it 5 years or 6 years, be at the discretion of county management.
Have a first by Vice Chairman Jordan, second by Commissioner Allman. Any other questions, comments before we vote? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Mr. Jenkins, David Jenkins, Health and Human Service Director, going to give us a COVID-19 update.
Good evening, Chairman, Commissioners. I want to provide a brief update on Stanley County's COVID-19 situation. We're still at a high risk, considered a high risk county at 16.6%. Our latest cases for pediatric in August, we had 279, 0 to 17, and of September, which is on day 7, we currently have 141 cases of 0 to 17. Over the weekend, through this afternoon, we had 175 positives, of which 67 were 0 to 17, so we've seen an uptick there. Currently, 31 hospitalized in the county, 14 are in ICU, 12 of which are intubated at this time. Our cumulative deaths are at 160 now. Unfortunately, we had 3 Stanley County citizens pass away over the weekend. 785 positive cases over the last 14 days. We have 173 total cumulative breakthrough cases as of July 6, 5 current outbreaks, and 8 current clusters. A little update on our vaccinations. We're currently at 39% for 1 dose, so slowly moving up there, and 35% for fully vaccinated. Still got a ways to go. I did want to provide a breakdown on our ages by fully vaccinated. 12 to 17 is at 15%, 18 to 24, 22%, 25 to 49 at 28%, 50 to 64 is at 48%, 65 to 74, 70%, and 75 plus is at 73% for vaccination. A lot of discussion on percent positivity, and we get questioned a lot about how we come up with that number, derive that number, and we're asked we need to take the total number of positive cases divided by the total number of people in a county. That's not really how you derive percent positivity. It's more of number of positive cases divided by total tests in order to determine the level of transmission and if there's enough testing being conducted. But we do have a case rate if we want to compare ourselves to other counties. That's when you take the number of positives and divide by the total population times 100,000, and that gives you basically a rate that you can identify and make a comparison to how you compare with larger counties or smaller counties. It's kind of levels the playing field. So that's what that case rate is that you'll find on the Department of Health and Human Services website. But we are currently at 1248. Deaths are a little behind because those reported, some of that data's behind because that comes from us. But that kind of gives you a case rate, and you can kind of make a comparison to counties surrounding us to see where we fall there. Also wanted to provide this slide. This is kind of our area hospitals that was shared last week. We put a lot of this information out on our Facebook page just to help raise awareness. We're working closely with Atrium on some of the sharing of information. They share some of ours, we share some of theirs, just to kind of get the word out and where we are. 933 hospitalized area hospitals. That's 857 that are unvaccinated and 76 vaccinated. So as we mentioned before, it's hitting the unvaccinated population much harder, unfortunately. But the vaccines are showing to hold up well overall based on some of these numbers that we're seeing. 126 on life support, it's intensive care. Of those, 122 unvaccinated and 4 vaccinated. Speaking with our local hospital, unfortunately they are beyond capacity, and majority of the COVID-related ICUs are vented, as I mentioned earlier. So I know Commissioner Eford mentioned earlier tonight about 9/11, and I can't think of another time that our country kind of came together against a common enemy. So with that said, we have an enemy here in the U.S. right now, whether foreign or domestic. It's a common enemy that's killing Americans. And I think it's important that, and killing Americans by the thousands at that, I think it's important that we all come together, every man, woman, and child that's capable, and do our best to do our part to help fight this enemy, which is COVID. Although it's unseen, it's wreaking havoc on our community, so I want to just reinforce getting vaccinated, wearing masks, and socially distancing still the best practices to help mitigate the spread of this and defeat this virus. Did want to also mention our vaccine hotline, 980-323-0205, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. So if you haven't got your vaccine yet, please consider doing so. And that's my update for this evening, Commissioners. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have to the best of my ability.
Questions for Mr. Jenkins?
I just want to give a quick thank you for putting the information out, because a lot of people are confused about where do I get the information from? Do I get it from CNN? Do I get it from Fox? Where do I get it from the internet? I recommended people to get the information from the local health departments and the local hospitals, because there's the ones in our backyard, in everyone's backyards, depending on where they live, that is actually dealing with this stuff. So, and I appreciate the 3 hospitals getting together and putting out that chart. And get information from our local people, because they're not part of any big conspiracy. It's just people, local people dealing with a virus. That's our common enemy right now. Thank you.
Any other questions? I do have a couple, Mr. Jenkins.
Yes, sir.
I know we saw on TV over the weekend that booster shots were being pulled for further studies, but then I see on Facebook, or I've talked with people locally that have had their booster shots. So what is the true story on booster shots?
I don't know if I've seen that particular story, Commissioner Lawhon. I know that right now, booster shots are still being recommended for vaccines for people that are, receiving active cancer treatment. Have to meet a specific criteria: organ transplants, stem cell transplants, pulmonary immune deficiencies, and untreated HIV infection, just to name a few. So it's really the most susceptible populations right now. It's recommended for the booster dose or the additional vaccine. Again, I'm not familiar with that particular story, but I'll certainly look into it, try to get more information. I have not seen anything come across from our Department of Health and Human Services at the state level. It's all set, green light, good to go as far as providing boosters at this time.
Are they recommending, if someone's had COVID breakthrough case, such as myself, are they recommending booster shots to be administered after so many days, or what's the deal on that?
Typically, it's 2 to 3 weeks once post-recovery, and it would be a good idea to get the booster because, you gain some immunity from being infected, but the vaccine itself is going to provide you a lot better immunity to this virus. With the way it's designed, it just holds up a lot better.
Okay, and the last question I have, I know we've had 100 and some breakthrough cases in Stanley County.
173, yes, sir, to date.
Here's the question: have we had any of those breakthrough cases to end up dying from COVID-19?
No, sir. We have had a few hospitalized, but no deaths to my knowledge at this time. Excellent question. And that's the idea behind the vaccine, to prevent hospitalizations and deaths. So, and it's proven to do that.
Any other questions?
Director Jenkins, do you have any knowledge of the Mu variant that they are, any current news? I know what I've read, and a little bit of it's probably alarmist. I didn't know if you had
nothing official other than there's concerns about it being more transmissible, which means it could spread more quickly, but it's so early right now in the studies that I don't have any real solid information I'd be comfortable sharing with you. No more than what you probably already read, Commissioner Jordan, on your own at this time. So,
thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Next item on the agenda is Andy Lucas, County Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. The next item on your agenda is the appointment of a board member, or it could be a community member or somebody to represent you, to the partners. As you recall, we've transitioned from Cardinal Innovations as our managed care organization for mental health to partners as of September 1st. And so you'll need to appoint either somebody from the board or a designee to represent you at those board meetings. They meet the third Thursday of each month. They're currently being held via Zoom. Their next meeting is Thursday, September 16th. And I believe we've attached a 2021 meeting schedule for you. It's a 3-year appointment, eligible for reappointment for an additional 3 years. I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Any questions? We have a volunteer.
Mr. Chairman, considering what it's for, I feel like maybe one of the appointees from the Board of Health might be a good choice. I'd like to volunteer myself. I just want to be sure the third Thursdays is not the same commitment as I've got for something else. I don't have time to look it up right now. If we could table it?
The only, I mean, it's not, the next meeting is September 16th, so if you table it, we're not going to have a representative at the first
If
meeting.
anybody else wants to do it, jump at it. If not, I will tentatively throw my name in the hat.
I believe it's you and Commissioner Eford serve on that Health and Human Service Board, correct? Is that correct? Yeah.
Okay, the next one is a Zoom meeting, correct?
They're holding all their meetings via Zoom currently. They have been for the last several months.
Okay, what I can do it for, I wouldn't have a problem doing that until we could find somebody else.
I tend to agree with Commissioner Jordan that it probably should be somebody that serves on the human.
Problem is, we have a Republican board, and that meeting is the same night as our Republican board meeting every single night of the year. They literally set it at the exact same time. So,
What time are those meetings?
I believe it was 6 p.m., but I can, let me double check here. 6 p.m. No meetings in July or December.
I never get to make it. It's the exact same time as our GOP meeting.
As stated, I could do it until we find some, because it says you could find an alternative from the Health and Human Service Board, but in the meantime, I would be willing to do it until maybe someone from that board, we find a designee to do it, but if y'all don't want me to do, that's fine too. Because there's a meeting, we're not gonna find one by September the 16th.
No.
I withdraw my request. Since
Yes,
no
we will
second.
table this, Andy,
Okay.
until we get somebody to do it.
I don't mind, I just can't do it in September.
Well, you can cancel your vacation.
And I think if Commissioner Eford's going to do it, I don't think it's an issue that you're appointed. That way we can let them know you're appointed. You can start receiving the agenda packet and all that, and it's just, you just won't be at the September meeting. That's not an issue. At least you've done the appointment.
September, you can pick up in October.
They're all Zoom at this point. They're doing them all Zoom.
Well, they have Wi-Fi in that campground, I'm sure. Okay, so you're volunteering to be the appointee except for September? Okay. Yeah. Peter can attend the September.
Peter, you can't do it either because it's also the same time as your RPO meeting, which is the other board I was on before I was on this board, which also conflicts with that. But everybody likes to have a meeting on the third Thursday of the month, by the way. It's 6 o'clock at night. There's 3 agencies in Stanley County that all have that meeting at the same day.
September's RPO is during the day. I don't.
We need a motion to appoint Commissioner Eford.
I make a motion to appoint Commissioner Eford.
Second.
Okay. Commissioner Shuto, seconded by Commissioner Barbie. All in favor, please say aye. Okay, any opposed besides you, Scott? No opposed. Everybody's passed 7-0. Congratulations.
Yeah, as soon as Tyler communicates with them well, likely tomorrow, you'll begin to get email
Hey, Manager
with the
Lucas,
information. Yes, sir.
can we make a resolution that nobody else have any meetings on the third Thursday at 6 p.m.?
No.
You're not allowed to do any more meetings.
You can make a
That's-
resolution.
That's
I don't know
4
how many folks will
agencies in
follow.
one night.
County Manager Lucas, design build general contractor approval.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. During the budget time, the board authorized us to move forward with issuing a request for qualifications for a design build contractor for the livestock arena project. We received 3 responses to that RFQ. One was from MCT in Union County. The other was from DR Reynolds over in Montgomery County, and the third one was from Samet, which I think is a more of a regional entity. It's got, but I think they've got a base in the Triad. After reviewing those requests for qualifications, the Livestock Arena Committee met with 2 of those firms, DR Reynolds and MCT, and just basically based on their work here in the county or in adjacent counties. And after viewing MCT's work in Union County with their event center / livestock arena down there, the Livestock Arena Committee has made the recommendation that the county engage MCT as the design build general contractor for that livestock arena project. If approved this evening, MCT will enter into a period of due diligence where they'll contract with the county to value and engineer that project and prepare an initial design for a facility. There was some design done, but obviously that wasn't going to meet our budget, and so I think obviously this contractor will go back to the drawing board and kind of take a look at what they can do for the $3 million that we told them we have. And they'll put that together, and they'll come back to us with a proposal and a guaranteed maximum price. And at that point in time, if you all say we just can't do it for that maximum price, what can you take off of it, and you aren't willing to compromise on what they want to take off of it, then at that point in time, the project doesn't happen. If you want it to move forward after they've done their due diligence and come up with that plan and getting ready to enter into that guaranteed maximum price contract, then we would execute it, and they would move forward and they would build it, and they would have to do it for that price. And they can't come back to us at any point and say, we need more money, it's cost of overrun. It's guaranteed maximum price contract. So this evening, we're asking you to consider and approve MCT as the design build general contractor for the livestock arena facility and authorize staff to execute that due diligence contract with them, which they'll take probably, I would say, 30 to 60 days to do that and come back to us with a guaranteed maximum price proposal.
Questions of County Manager Lucas?
Just play into the change. Commissioner Eford, I know you've seen the new arena that we were talking about. How does this factor into that?
As far as the design,
Yeah.
I think what Mr. Furr, he don't like me calling him Mr. Furr back there, but I think MCT built the one in Union County.
That's correct.
And they were going to maybe use their plan to redo the one that we have. Because I think they came in 2.6 is what the director?
They came in 2.6, and that didn't include the bleachers and the dirt, and I believe some of the audiovisual. And so at the end of the day, it was slightly over $3 million with everything included. But the contract, the guaranteed maximum price contract for the building, without the dirt, without the bleachers, and without the audiovisual was 2.6. Now, my firm belief is you won't get that building in today's market for 2.6. So, I don't know what they'll come back with. I think we're going to have to make some compromises on whatever they come back and say this is what we can do for $3 million. It may not look like what you have in Union County. I would dare say it's probably not going to. If you want something that looks like Union County, you're going to have to spend more than the $3.4 million that we were going to have to spend before.
But you're getting a lot more. Union County had a lot more in design than what we were proposing with the one here. We were basically just doing the back part, the livestock arena, but Union County had a whole building up front with kitchen facilities, meeting spaces. Really
they had about 10,000 square feet of meeting space in addition to a livestock arena. Now, their livestock arena certainly wasn't quite as, it was a little more simple than what we have designed currently. But, obviously it's very functional.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Make a motion, we approve MCT as design build general contractor for the purpose of the livestock arena facility and authorize staff to execute a due diligence contract.
Commissioner Eford first, second by Commissioner Barbie. Any other questions, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Mr. Lucas.
Yes,
Guard Road property.
Yeah, at the request of Chairman Lawhon, there's presenting some information about the old National Guard facility the county assumed in September of 2015 from the National Guard on Guard Road. A little slide presentation here. As you can see from the Guard Road facility, as you enter the Guard Road facility, looking back, I guess that would be south towards Albemarle, as you come into the facility. On the right hand of the facility, there are several buildings that we currently use on a day-to-day basis. In fact, the two blue roofs that you see and the last white roof that you see sort of closest to a couple of those blue roofs is our utilities operations center and a couple of the buildings that utilities uses to park apparatus and equipment under. We also use one of those buildings. The sheriff's office uses part of one of those buildings. Facilities uses part of one of those buildings. EMS and emergency management use those buildings. And so those buildings are highly functional. Nothing wrong with those buildings at this point. Obviously, you know, they're a little aged in terms of their look, but there's nothing wrong with them. They don't leak. We use them on a day-to-day basis. The buildings, and then there's the red area that's outlined in red, which is about 10 acres. That is currently leased to Jimmy Dick, and he uses that as essentially a farm for his seed goats. And so he has goats, and the last time I was out there was probably 10 or 15 goats running around out there. You know, the grass is, you know, a little bit high, but that's what they chomp on and eat. And so, so we've done that, and that's not to say that at any point in time we couldn't, you know, tell Jimmy, hey, we have a use for that piece of property and we want to, and so we have that as part of our lease. We could get that property back. But right now we weren't using it, and so he had a need for it, and we lease it to him. Then there's the buildings that are circled in yellow, which are buildings that we inherited as well, that were inherited and were in very rough shape. Now, keep in mind, the ones in blue were also had issues, but they were basically just shells of buildings. They were like storage buildings. And so there really wasn't much, you know, we had to repair some roofs, but that was really it. There was nothing in there. There wasn't like walls and sheetrock and they weren't kitchens. They were, you know, they had cement floors. They really were very basic buildings. And so the buildings on the yellow side, those were not necessarily dormitories, but classrooms. The first building on the left as you come in from Guard Road, that had a kitchen in it. You know, then there's the lower building on the left-hand side that was built in 1986. That was obviously was an office building. It looked like there were some training rooms in there. There's a huge vault in there. They also had a shop on the back side of that property. When we inherited those facilities back in 2015, keep in mind the Guard had vacated those facilities many years ago, probably 10 or 12 years at least. I got here in 2008, and they were already out at the airport, the Guard facility. So at least from 2008 to 2015, those buildings sat vacant with no power on them, and because they didn't have a need for them. In fact, we got many calls every year, every summer, from citizens saying, "You got to mow. Can you mow up there?" And we're like, "That's not our property. It's the Guard, the National Guard's property." We'd have to hunt down somebody at the state level to find them and get them to mow the property. So when the Guard offered us the property, we knew that we'd have some use for some of the storage buildings out there, because we went out and took a look, and we said, gosh, we have an immediate need for storage. So we knew we could, repurpose part of it. Other parts we were like, we don't really need those buildings, but maybe it's some piece of property at some point in the future. But the Guard Road facility, you can just see some of these pictures. We're currently utilizing about 4 of the 6 buildings. 2 of them we don't use. 2 of the larger buildings we don't use. There's a total of 21.5. 8 acres are currently being used for the goat farming. They're very deteriorated, but keep in mind, these buildings we inherited very deteriorated. Dr. Enamite went through one with me not too long after we inherited. I want to say 2016, 2017, maybe a year or two after we inherited. And he had to actually wear a respirator. The mold inside the buildings was so bad just because they've turned the power off, and then just stuff. The ceiling tiles have not so much from the roof leaking, but the transition from cold to hot, and so there's a lot of buildings sweating, and so there's a lot of water in there, and so the ceiling tiles have gotten so saturated they fall to the ground, and there's moss growing on them. There's areas in the first building on the left-hand side which used to have the kitchen, and there's areas in there where you can actually see the sky. I mean, in the building, the roof's not there anymore, the whole structure, and it's been like that since we got it. In fact, first time I went through it, I was like, good gracious, we got like a turf field in here, because the stuff had fallen down and the grass was growing in the you can kind of see it in some of these pictures of the moss is kind of growing up through it. So I think I wouldn't want folks to think that we've let these buildings get like this. These buildings were like this when we took them over. We just haven't had a need for them, so we haven't really done anything to do anything with them, because we didn't take this property with the intent of repurposing those buildings. We just don't need that kind of office space. We really took it just to address, one, our storage needs, which we have done, and two, to maybe future growth for the county, if we ever needed to build something out there, and three, to address the issue that we got every year about mowing the grass out there. We said, well, if we're going to have to deal with trying to find somebody at the state, we might as well just take it over and deal with it ourselves. And so you can see some of these pictures. Here are some of the pictures on the right-hand side where you can see we've put up storage units. You can see where your utilities are parked in front of one that's got an overhang. You see some of our trailers from EMS and emergency management. So yeah, we're using a good number of those facilities on a day-to-day basis. Building 1, that's the first one you see on the northeast side of the property. It's about 11,000 square feet. Estimated construction was 1954. You can see they left behind kitchen equipment and sinks, and you can see where the girders have just sort of fallen down over time as they've rusted. The buildings are in bad shape, but again, those buildings look like that in 2015. Have they gotten worse? Yes, but they were bad. They were in really rough shape in 2015. And here's kind of a look at from the newer building, the 16,000 square foot building. It was built in '86, and you can see sort of similar ceiling tiles falling down, the metal girders falling down. You can see the shop in the back. The shop area is actually probably one of the better areas of that 1986 building. The ceiling still leaks, but there's no sheetrock in there. It's just sort of a cement block area, and so they really it's not doing much damage in that part of it. Whereas the areas that were at administrative offices and the like, those are deteriorating, continue to deteriorate. So as far as our recommendations, we continue to maintain the west side of the property for utility operations and our various storage facilities, and I would recommend we continue to do that. I wouldn't stop using those. They're valuable. You could consider removing the buildings on the east side of the property at some point. I'm not saying that we should do it tomorrow or even this fiscal year. I mean, you're looking at, when you look at $8 to $10 a square foot to tear down a building, and that's not dealing with the mitigation of mold and asbestos, because the old asbestos tiles are in those buildings and they're all curled up. And so, someone would have to go in and mitigate. That 1954 building is loaded smack full of asbestos tiles. And I'm sure there's asbestos in the 1986 building too, especially wrapped around all the utility piping. And so all that's going to have to be mitigated. So, that's going to raise your cost up considerably in terms of demolition. They're both in disrepair beyond reuse. If we were going to build something up there, I'd say tear those buildings down and start from scratch. Keep in mind, there's no sewer up there. It's a sewer. It was based on a septic tank. And so if you're ever going to use those buildings, we're ever going to build something up there in the future, I would recommend we run sewer from the wastewater treatment plant in Baden to serve that property, which is then also going to cost you a significant amount of money. Not that you couldn't use the septic. Depends on what we're going to put up there. If you're going to have 100 employees up there, you probably ought to consider sewer. If you're going to have 10 or 15, not an issue like we have today with septic tanks. And so, you're looking at $250,000 to $500,000 just to tear the buildings down. And that's a lot of money when you consider the needs we have just to provide our current services and initiatives, whether it be EMS. We just had a conversation about heart monitors and things of that nature. That's money that could be spent on that versus, dilapidated buildings that we really don't have a need for, that really we took control of, but we're already in bad shape. And so, and those buildings are used from time to time, by the military and law enforcement. They'll do, mock drills in there. And so, as rough shape as they are, they have some training need for those entities. It's possible that in the future we'll utilize the land for future county buildings and operations. And like I say, I think Stewart would need to be extended if we do anything up there in a significant manner. And so that really concludes my presentation, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions the board may have about that property.
Questions? I'll just make a statement. At some point, I do think that those buildings that are dilapidated are going to have to be removed. And my only concern about waiting to see what it's going to cost is prices continue to go up. But at some point, they're going to have to be tore down and hauled off.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, at some point, I would say that other than when our utility operations are on site, which is Monday through Friday, 7 to 4 or so, there's a gate or there's a fence around that entire property with wire on top of it. So the chance of somebody getting in there after hours or on weekends or do something to loiter or do something is very minimal because of that fence around the entire property. With that wire on the top part of it. So I think our liability is pretty limited with respect to those buildings. But I don't disagree with you, Chairman Lawhon. At some point, we're going to need to we need to consider taking those buildings down if we're not going to use them. And then that land's just going to sit there and for I don't know how long for some purpose at some point in the future. But land's holding the world. It's only holding the world together, and so it's it's got value at some point. As our operations expand 10, 20, 30 years from now, someone may want to use that property for something.
It's a nice sized chunk of land. Love to see it be used for something if we had a use for it. We don't right now.
Currently don't.
Is it something you could, without much headache or expense, look into really quoting what it would cost, knowing we have to get the asbestos removed? Just get us a quote for what
Yeah, I mean, if you all are seriously interested in taking them down, I'll definitely get a quote and we can consider it as part of budget process next year. Absolutely.
Not looking to do it, but it'd be nice to know if it's 250,000 or $1 million.
Yeah. Yeah, certainly. We can get that. We can get a price on that. I mean, I don't, we can just put it in, we'll put it into the budget conversation for February when you're at your retreat. And that way you can make a decision whether you want to see it in the budget or you don't want to see it. So.
Quick question. Is that something, I mean, I don't know what the asbestos, how it impacted, that some fire departments or something could do a practice can burn on it there, and could that cut the cost down after they burn it down?
Yeah. I mean, they potentially could. I mean, they could burn it down. I mean, someone's still going to have to call all that stuff off. And with the asbestos and other things in there, I just don't know how that, I have no idea how that whole process works. I'd have to talk to Brian Simpson, and he'd probably have to talk to Fire Marshal. And
Brian Simpson is shaking his head behind you. You do not burn asbestos is what I'm seeing from that. Is that right, sir?
It would cost more right now to abate that just to be utilized to be burnt down.
Hey, it was a good question, though.
I mean, you can see the tile floors as you walk through the one building. They're all folded up, and you're like, those are those asbestos squares. I mean, there's just they're that all day long throughout the whole building.
Up on our agenda, in February. You tend to forget about it because I knew it was given to us, but you tend to forget about it because we don't.
We'll put a cost to it about what it's going to cost to abate and tear down, and you all can make it. We can make it. At the end of the day, it's going to matter of priorities. I mean, if it's going to cost $375,000, do you put $375,000 to that, or do you put $375,000 to something in the sheriff's office, or that helps them, provide greater service to the community, or EMS, or fire, or social services? I mean, it becomes one of those things where $375,000 is half a penny on your tax rate.
Is there ever any chance we're going to do something with anything else in that land? I mean, we adopted that for here's some places to park some buses and some trailers, but is there any chance we're going to do anything else with that land ever?
you could potentially sell it to somebody. I mean, you know, one of those things, you know, if you look at how other communities build jails long-term, you know, a lot of times they'll have a satellite jail maybe out of town where they take offenders, not guys, but females and males that don't necessarily need to be in court, but they're now either been sentenced or their court date's been pushed back 30 or 60 days. They take them out. And so, because land in uptowns has become so expensive that expanding the jail beyond a certain point in uptown could get cost prohibitive. And then you would say, okay, hey, well, we have this piece of land out there that we could do it on. So, it's one thing that's come across my mind. I don't think it's anything we're going to need. We still have an area downtown where we could expand another whole entire unit of our jail facility. I mean, it was designed that way, possibly two. And so I think we're okay right there for right now. But at some point, 20, 30 years from now, that may be contemplated. So there could be other services too. The problem is, if it was the western part of the county, I would say I could think of facilities that we could use tomorrow that would sort of duplicate what we have here at the Commons, but would make it more convenient for folks. But going in that direction, there really just isn't the growth and the demand. You're going the opposite way of where we have significant growth and demand for services. And it's sort of isolated because, the other piece of it is, we've talked about even when we talked about our new EMS base, we looked at that. We're like, we already own this piece of property. But it just is sort of out of the way of where the demand for services are at this point in time, where we are in Stanley County.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll put it on the...
We'll bring it back to you in February retreat. That's correct.
Okay. Thank you. I'd like to take a 5-minute recess.
First of all, I appreciate y'all having me up here again, and just want to get another run at it. And basically, real background, my wake-up call to how COVID was coming back was in late June, early July, and the wake-up call was when the Albemarle Fire Department, when that whole department went out under COVID. And it showed that it was here and it was back, and the city of Albemarle has dealt with it, and they have a mask policy also. I think it was Provincetown, Massachusetts, right around that same time, we found that 700 residents who'd been vaccinated got COVID. But what we found out from that is that if you've been vaccinated, you can still spread COVID. And since then, we helped out, I think it was Onslow County, by sending an ambulance unit over there. And we've had our Board of Elections had to shut down for a week because of a
Well, they made that decision. They didn't have to.
Correct, but they did close up to the public.
Yeah, the board made that decision, though. They're essential employees. They could have, there's ways they could have.
But they did close up close up. And I can tell you, as an elected official, man, I feel an added weight on my shoulders, because ultimately we're responsible for the public health and to help out the citizens. In the last meeting, I was disappointed because my presentation was cut short and there was no second to even discuss how to keep our employees and citizens safe. And Chairman Lawhon, I asked tonight that you use the gavel to moderate a healthy discussion, that we have a healthy discussion about these items. And fellow commissioners, I hope we get a second to discuss amongst us what we can do as a team to help as a team of community leaders to help with what we can do to help slow the spread of COVID-19. Because it's one of the most important things that we could deal with right now. Because with COVID spreading, that just hurts everything. It has economic issues with us, it has health issues, and it has productivity issues, and it has education issues. And if you could start I've got a couple of slides there. Since we last met for the 10th consecutive week, COVID cases in Stanley County have increased. In July, there were 261 new cases of COVID. In August, 1,159. In September, we've already had 584 new cases of COVID. Pediatrics, when COVID made us run last year, there wasn't much happening with the kids. Right now, we had 51 cases in July, August 278, and we've already had half of that in September. And look at the numbers here. For the first 6 weeks from June 26th to August the 6th, that's when COVID was making its arrival here, especially the Delta variant. We had 467 new cases in Stanley County and 4 deaths. And that's when we discussed it. That was at our August 9th meeting. Since then, it's been 4 weeks and 3 days, and from August 7th to September, or August 9th to September 7th, we've had 1,539 cases, 13 deaths, and 160 deaths. And what hurts is since our last meeting, I've lost 2 friends. One of them was number 151. I know who that was. He was a fellow Uwharrie Running Club member who spent weeks on the ventilator before he passed away. And then down in my hometown, I had a childhood friend that had went from Woodlawn Elementary School all the way to Troy State. And it shows you how fast COVID can run through a family. He went to his granddaughter's birthday party on one weekend, then then his granddaughter was the first one to catch it. And then it went to her parents, and then it went to Alan, and he called me from the hospital 2 days from when he passed away, and he was sounding pretty good, and then COVID got him 2 days later. So hopefully, with that background, that we can actually discuss what we can do as commissioners. I know we say we all do it together. And just to let you know, when I present things, I'm not that stubborn to where I can't compromise and come up with ideas and challenge us to do more. But we got to be able to discuss it first. And if you can do basically 3 issues. The first one is dealing with county employees and what we can do, because wearing a mask helps slow the spread of COVID. Being socially distanced helps slow the spread of COVID. So basically, what can we do with county employees? What type of mask and social distance policy can we put together to keep the employees from transmitting COVID-19 with each other? Because, man, as fast as this can roll through, it can wipe out 911 department. It can wipe out ambulances to where we have to get crews from somewhere else, and I would hate for that to happen. And so basically, the first thing I'd like to talk about, I got a motion here that was in your thing, the motion to, where's it at? I think y'all got it. That's not it there. I got a Stanley County government common sense mask policy for Stanley County employees. And I'd like to make a motion that we adopt that.
Okay. So Commissioner Shuto made the motion that we adopt the common sense mask requirement that he has proposed. Is there a second?
Commissioner Lawhon, I'm going to second it so we can make it an active motion and have discussion on it. Not because I necessarily agree with it, because that makes it a substantive motion.
Okay. I have a motion and a second, so we can discuss it. And I'll open the floor for discussion. So who wants to jump in?
I think that y'all have heard me enough, so I'm pretty much done with my discussion.
I'll make mine brief. Go ahead.
Okay. Mr.
Commissioner Furr? Yes.
There's nobody on this board that is affected more than me. But then on the other hand, I can't see where we've got the right, and the common sense is right, but I don't have the right to order them to do this. I don't believe that this is being done inside the county facilities. If each department head decides they needed to do this, then I'd go along with it. But as far as me ordering everyone else to do it, I'm gonna have to say no.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Furr. Yes, Vice Chairman Jordan.
Thank you and again, I know it's a difficult topic for you, Lane. Thank you for speaking up on it. I made myself clear on this before. I don't think we were elected with this particular mandate in mind. We do have some wonderful people that you can listen to. One is that gentleman right over there. Director Jenkins and his health department do a fantastic job of spreading the word. I don't think if people are not going to, if people are going to choose not to listen to him now, they're not going to appreciate having me try to shove it down their throats. And again, whether I think it's right or not. But Director Simpson is here. I'm not going to ask you to speak. Just nod your head if I'm right. The counties that have tried this that surround us, Mecklenburg, for example, they get a 40% reduction in staff. Their personnel got so fed up they just walked off the job. All right? Yeah, they're COVID fed up. We all are. Peter, Commissioner Shudo, I know you're fed up from one side. You're fed up fighting so hard to get this, and I'm not knocking what you believe, sir. I believe everything you do is with the best, the biggest of hearts, best of intention. I just may not be on the same side of the conversation with you, but that's okay. But other people are just as fed up hearing about COVID and hearing about what they're being told to do that they're walking off the job. So you have one argument where if we don't do this, the Board of Elections is going to have to close for 3 days. The other side of this is if you do this and 15 paramedics say screw you and quit, because that's what they did in Mecklenburg. They just walked off. Police are quitting, EMS are quitting. They're just done. Nurses and doctors are quitting. They're just done. People are literally walking off jobs because of mandates like this. I think there are better ways to get through it.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to say one other thing. I would like for everybody to know that I do wear a mask even when I go out into public. I believe they help, and I've had my vaccinations, and I'm doing everything that I can do to prevent this. But I really just don't feel like we have the right to order someone to do this. I believe we can lead them there if we get them the right information and quit getting this off the internet that is not correct. So that's the biggest thing I'd like to do. I'd like to see it just get publicized more. It's just a fact that I believe that it's not right for us to order, and we can't make them do it, but we need to lead them to do it. And I'm trying to do by example. I've took both my shots. I wear my mask. I try to prevent someone else from getting it. And that's all I can feel like I can do, just my part on this era. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Reed.
I totally understand, and I don't really have a problem with supporting this resolution if we were to change the word from require to suggest, recommend. It is a common sense policy, and I totally agree with it. I do a little radio show every Monday morning. I talk about it. I know the vaccine hotline is in my brain. I can tell you what it is. I'm just a poster that why I got my shot. I believe that, again, unless you are under a bridge or under a rock, everybody knows COVID, everybody knows. I watch the news every morning, listen to it and the numbers. The school system, I think, have 500 last I read that were in quarantine.
Yeah, a lot of those are contract traced, but
right.
Yeah.
But they wear the mask. It's going to be so hard to enforce, and if each department head wanted to do something like this, the wording of it just bothers me a little bit that we can require somebody to do something. Again, if you need a policy that the board can get behind, maybe we can get behind, suggest, or recommend.
At that point, it's really not a policy.
Yeah, I don't know, but that's my thoughts, sir.
Okay, thank you. Others? Yes, sir. Commissioner Barbie.
I wasn't going to make a lot of comments because I feel strongly about taking away the freedoms of the people of the country. But I think that's what it's come down to. It's been pumped in our heads for almost 2 years now. Start with don't wear a mask, then wear a mask. And then don't wear this mask, wear that type mask. And we've been lied to so much from organizations who's supposed to be where we get our confidence from. And it's just changed so much back and forth. And, you know, you can hear things, internet, news, whatever. But what it really comes down to is how you feel personally. And, you know, if you want to wear a mask, please do. Same way with the vaccinations. I don't believe in any kind of a mandate. I'm just getting fed up with all the information we keep getting, and we keep getting controversial type messages from everywhere. I believe our own health department is probably the best place to get the information. But then, you know, I see that a lot of stuff is fed with them from organizations which I have lost faith in. And so, in my opinion, I don't believe we should take any more freedoms away from our people. Let them make their choices. They've got enough information. This has been pumped into them for almost 2 years. If they don't know by now, you know, to wear a mask and social distance and wash your hands and this, that, they're never going to. I'm a little disappointed that this has gone on so long. We got over half the population of the United States vaccinated. And we have our hospitals full now with new cases. Why? If our medical people are just pumping into vaccines and not doing further research and experimenting what happens, we don't know what's happening to our body. This hadn't been out long enough to know the long-term effects on us. And I've heard some horror stories, which I'm not going to get into. But I still believe in freedom of choice. And, you know, I had my shots. And I recommend if you feel that you should get a shot, then you should get it. But I'm not by any means sitting up here and saying you're going to have to get a shot or you're going to have to wear a mask. I think that's up to the individual. So that's all I got.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
I'll say something real quick. I took the vaccine, was a little skeptical about it. My wife, she didn't take it when I took it. She took it later on, and I think you should take the vaccine. But it's your choice. You know, it's not. I don't think it should be required. County Manager Lucas mentioned last time about the morale of the employees. I think if you took a poll amongst the county employees, I think the vast majority of them would not support a mandate. And lastly, you know, I work for the taxpayers of this county, and I think if you polled the vast majority of the citizens of this county, they would say that they didn't agree with the mandate. So I agree with Commissioner Shudo. It's a big deal. It's important. People should practice social distancing, wear a mask if they feel it necessary. But you know, I'm not going to be breathing down somebody's throat telling them what to do.
Thank you. It looks like I'm the last one to say anything. And I too, along with my wife, have had vaccinations. She had Johnson & Johnson, and I had Moderna. And we're 2 breakthrough cases. I do hope that the vaccine that I had kept us out of the hospital. I know I felt lousy, and let me say lousy, for 5 or 6 days. She felt lousy for more than that. So I'm not going to say it did or it didn't, but I hope it did, because I didn't go to the hospital. She didn't go to the hospital. What really I believe that you're going to see a lot more breakthrough cases, and you're going to see people that are unvaccinated come down with COVID. And I believe that it's going to take herd immunity from people getting COVID-19 or people that have been vaccinated. But at some point, we're going to get herd immunity. What really bothers me as a taxpayer, and you need to be bothered too, is that the North Carolina agreed to pay $1 million for people that would go get vaccinated in a lottery. That bothers me because those $1 million lotteries, there's 4 of them, $4 million. Guess what? Those are tax dollars. And I know it's through the American Rescue Plan, but guess who pays the American Rescue Plan? Taxpayers. That bothers me. The state of North Carolina, to try to get people vaccinated, in the month of August, I believe they paid I think it was $250, and I may be wrong about that, the people that got the vaccination during August. And they even paid people that would drive people to the vaccination centers $25. That ended August 30th, 31st. People know that the vaccines are free. I doubt there's a person in Stanley County that does not know that Stanley County offers vaccinations free. I bet everybody knows it. I don't know what more can be done to encourage vaccinations, because if people aren't going to get them when they were having 4 $1 million lotteries, a chance to win $1 million or a chance to get paid to get them, I don't know how else you can encourage someone to get a vaccination. As far as the mask mandate, I do not like the word require. We've got a smart county manager and we've got smart department heads that can make personnel decisions. And I don't think it should be the Board of Commissioners to make a decision that, hey, we need to mandate and require masks. That's how I feel. Anyone else?
I'll call the question.
Okay, we got a vote. All in favor of requiring the mask mandate as presented by Commissioner Asciutto, please raise your right hand. All opposed, please raise your right hand. Motion to require a mask mandate fails. Vote 1 for, 6 against.
Okay, thank you. I got the second issue that we really hadn't discussed. And the issue was with the general public, because I have had concerns from various citizens that go into the county offices and the citizen is wearing a mask, but they're working with county employees who are not wearing a mask. So that's something, do we get a policy, or maybe you just send something out to people, say, consider when you're dealing with the general public that you need to wear a mask, because I'm getting calls about that.
Well, I would say that our customer service folks are all separated by glass and mitigation measures, and they're at least 6 feet away. If anybody's dealing with somebody in the community, if let's say a building inspector, they can certainly have a conversation and be social distance. So I mean, I think it would be difficult. I guess I'm trying to understand where somebody would interact with our public where they wouldn't have somebody either social distance or behind glass. I think about our utilities. I mean, they're completely behind glass. I mean, they have to open up a little window just to accept payment. I mean, they talk through the glass. Our central permitting folks are all behind glass barriers. Those customer service folks, our library staff are behind glass barriers, and there's a table in front of that so that you're 7 feet back when you're interacting with our library, at least 7 feet back. So, again, I don't think I can mandate, or where department heads have had issues, they've said to their employees, we need to wear masks. But I don't think I can mandate or wouldn't tell our department heads that they have to wear masks unless there's a mask mandate. And there's not a mask mandate, so I don't think I would be in a position to go to our department heads and say, hey, you need to wear a mask if you interact with the public. Because if you're interacting with the public and you're at least 6 feet away, there's no risk to the public.
I'll drop that one. It sounds like that's not going to go anywhere either.
I'm just.
No, seriously, I'll drop that because it sounds like the discussion's not going to go anywhere. So I'm dropping that one.
Yeah.
And then the last thing, what I'd like to do, if you could, I don't know if you have the slide up there about vaccines. I mean, trying to promote vaccination rates within the county, within our employees. I mean, this is just ideas. And I know, Chairman Lawhon, you're against what the state did and incentives and stuff like that. But in the long run, something like that saves money, because if you could prevent one person from being on the ventilator for 2 months in the hospital and they don't have insurance, that's a huge cost to society. And part of this, and part of my goal is to, as a vaccine and community ambassador for Atrium Health, is trying to promote vaccines and do it in a positive way. And right now, I just saw where the state of North Carolina is at 61% vaccination rate, and we're at 35% vaccination rate. We can't be proud of that as commissioners and just say, whatever, let's just let it roll. And I'd like to even do something like have a 6-week, this is just ideas I have, and I'd like to have discussion to see if y'all want to do anything to try to promote our employees getting vaccine rate, because when time off becomes a productivity problem, and we're self-insured pretty much, our insurance program, you start getting people going into the hospital, that's bad. And also, if you look at the percentage, basically everyone says it's a pretty high survival rate with COVID. But if you look at the cases in Stanley County, and this is tracked pretty much from the beginning, pretty much about 1.6 out of every 100 people who test positive in Stanley County have passed away from COVID, because 9,000 was 160 divided by almost 10,000. That's 1.6 per 100, correct?
I'd have to do the math. Yeah.
10,000 and 160 out of 10,000, that's...
Yeah. The death rate's under 2%.
1.6. Yes, it's 1.6%. That means if we have 200 county employees that end up getting not COVID, but this is just the ones that are, because they're using that number, they're diagnosed with COVID, there's a chance that 3 of them are going to be no longer with us. So I would like to try to do something to promote vaccines within the county, and there's things you could do, like you'd have a $6,000 6-week program. Each week you'd have a drawing in which 2 county employees will win $500 each if they've been vaccinated. And that's just not new vaccination, that's people who have been vaccinated from the beginning. So those people at the beginning would be left out. 2 days paid off if a county employee's been vaccinated. Non-vaccinated employees have to be tested weekly. As far as community, you can do community outreach and stuff, and just to do a little more, maybe if we need to give more money, I don't know how much they have in the Department of Public Health. I just think as elected officials, we should get together and try to do something, whether it's getting yard signs and stuff like that, because more people are getting vaccinated. I think we had an uptick in people getting vaccinated in the last month. If I'm not, Director Jenkins, is that correct? Well, I'm okay with that, because other than that, man, you're getting in the hospital. So basically, that's my thing. If we want to discuss it, fine. If we don't, that's okay too. I pretty much. And by the way, this is my last time bringing this stuff up.
But if 4 people from the same family came, they'd get $100 each, so you could have $400 for the family. Plus, somebody would get $25 for driving them. So you could get $425 if 4 folks in the same household that were over 12 years old came. So
that's all I got. And I'm not going to bring this up again, but if someone else ever wants to bring it up, I'll be glad to support them. But if y'all want to have a discussion on this, fine. If not, we'll just move on.
I think in my comments a while ago, I made the statement that any dollars that are paid are tax dollars. And I think everyone in this county knows that the vaccinations are being given. They're free, but there are people in this county that will not take a vaccination. Number one, because it's not approved drug, it's approved for emergency use. And I would love to know the number of people in this county who have had COVID but never got tested. And I grant you that number is big. So, you know, you talk about the death rate. If we knew that number, and I grant you there's people out there right now that have COVID that hadn't been to the health department or any other doctor to be tested. So we really don't know the true numbers. So again, I think it is each citizen's choice whether they're going to get vaccinated or not. It's not because I'm going to tell them to. And if they don't, if you tell them you're required to get a vaccination, then you've got all kinds of other problems. Sure, I want this thing to go away. I don't want to ever get it again. I hope nobody in this room ever gets it, because it's not fun even when you don't go to the hospital or to the doctor. It is not fun. So that's all I've got to say about it. If anybody else wants to talk about Peter's ideas, let me know.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to add a little something to what you said. First off, I'm totally against paying to get this shot. I think that's wrong. That's for number one. I don't think we ought to have to do that. As far as waiting on the booster shot, if that was going to be more, I'm going to hold out to get $500. I'd like to have it myself. But again, people are scared, and they think that they're being shot with some sort of chip that's the government's gonna keep up with them, that's foolish to think that. If they were going to do that, they would put it in a flu shot, or they'd put it in something that children get automatically when they're born. So I don't know what the scared part of it is. But as far as the holding out for paying any money, I'm against it.
Okay, no, Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Number one, I can't believe it, but Lane Ferd, that was the most articulate argument I've ever heard against why they're not chipping the COVID vaccine. Holy crap, that was genius. I should have thought of that one. Wow, yeah. I'm with you. I'm not for paying. I'm not for incentivizing it in terms of money. I have seen more money thrown at people for no good reason in the last 18 months I've ever seen in my life. If you want to give people time off, if we want to give county employees time off, I'm all for it. How about all the ones that worked for the last 2 years and didn't get a day off? Give them all the time off that you want. But people are either going to get the vaccine or they're not. End of story. They know it. They know about it. There's nobody left that don't know about it. There's nobody left that doesn't have an opinion on masks. And what we say is not going to change it. I don't want to mandate it, and I don't think incentivizing it would help. Either if you weren't going to do it when the state was offering 100 or 250, or the governor was offering $1 million, you ain't going to do it for anything else. And I don't want it to be our county money that we're giving out.
Anyone else? I do want to make a comment, because I go around town and I see different businesses. And a lot of signs on a lot of the businesses are, with COVID-19 being rapid at this time, we recommend a mask covering, but it is not required. I like those signs, because not all businesses, and a lot of people that go in those businesses wear a mask, but it says on the door, we highly recommend, but it's not required.
We have signs for masking, and I would say generally, I mean, obviously everybody goes in the health department has to wear a mask, and we make folks who go to the social services wear masks. Not some folks don't. I mean, there's always going to be some outliers, and I would generally say probably 50% of the people come in central permitting, 50 to 60% wear a mask. Yeah, there's signs at every entrance. By and large, most folks come in here now. You keep in mind in the courthouse. They're really not in our register of deed staff have masks, and Suzanne's pretty serious about them wearing them. And no one can get in there. There's a glass barrier that you do all your business, and so really no one can even get in the register of deeds office. Keep in mind the rest of our offices, the rest of the offices in the courthouse are other than the tax office, which every employee up there has their own office, so they can social distance. The rest of those offices they're state offices. They're not our offices. So if you're doing business with the clerk of court, I can't control what the clerk of court does. I mean, they're state employees, and so you got the clerk of court, you got probation and parole, you got all the court, you got district attorney. I mean, all those are not our folks. They reside in our buildings, but they're not our folks, and so. Typically the judge will impose a mask, and he has imposed a mask mandate on the courthouse in the past, but currently Judge Bridges does not have a mask mandate in place.
Any other comments? Commissioner Shuto, did you make that as a motion?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so we don't have a motion on the floor then.
I could see it wasn't going anywhere.
Let's go along to item number 16. Consolidated Health and Human Service Board appointment.
I think it was David, but you want me to do it?
Yeah, if you don't want to do it, I mean,
the Consolidated Health and Human Services Board last month met, and Dr. Eric Johnson had resigned his seat. He was moving out of the area. One of our members, our chairman, found Jenny Henson. She spoke to us. No, I'm sorry, that chairman, not this chairman. Found Dr. Jenny Henson. She actually was, I believe, the lady that spoke to us last month. Is that right, Commissioner Shuto? Was that the same as Jenny Henson? Yeah. So she has graciously agreed to fill that slot. It met with, it got approval by the CHSA board to come to us as a recommendation. So I would like to make the motion that we approve Dr. Henson to fill the vacant physician member spot on the Consolidated Health and Human Services Board.
Okay, Vice Chairman Jordan makes a motion to approve Dr. Jenny Henson to the
Second.
Human Board. And Commissioner Shuto just seconded that. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. We have the consent agenda with the item added.
I make a motion we approve the consent agenda.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Shuto. Who seconded? Second. Vice Chairman Jordan, second. I'm sorry.
Oh, Paul?
It don't matter. All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Commissioner comments. Commissioner Shuto.
I just want to thank everybody for having the discussion tonight. It's always good to have healthy debate, and just want to let you know that Friday and Saturday, the Albemarle Parks and Recreation is going to have the Tour to Elvis 5K, and I think Commissioner Jordan has helped with the motorcycle before, leading the way.
Just remembered I need to message Keith and see if I'm on motorcycle duty Saturday.
And what's kind of interesting, they're going to have Food Truck Friday night, but they're moving it to Market Station rather than City Lake Park as part of the race there and stuff. And then on Thursday night, we're going to have Elvis, First Street and Beyond in downtown Albemarle. And a lot of the stores are going to be open. The new Bait and Brew is going to be open. Hilltop Seafood is going to have their food truck out there. And we're going to have a Vac and Dash has partnered with Atrium Health, and from 2 to 7, we're going to have a vaccine clinic across the street from Vac and Dash. And somebody who, out of the people that get vaccinated, that is going to win $500. And we're going to give away some shoes. So spread the word and come on down and get vaccinated.
Commissioner Eford,
No comment, sir.
Commissioner Barbie,
No comment.
Vice Chairman Jordan,
No comment.
Commissioner Allman,
No comment.
Commissioner Furr.
Just have one little bit. I spent a nickel's worth just a few minutes ago, but I'm gonna make this even more because Tommy says Commissioner Jordan there think more than I've ever said. But making a long story short, thank you for the invite to the Butterfly House bike ride that you invited me to. I was lucky enough to have won the best hand, which was a flush. And I won $100, and I donated it back in the name of the county commissioners. So I want you all to know we all had something to do with it. But I hope they done good. I never did hear what their actual outcome was, how much they got. Did you, Bikes, Stanley?
I don't know the final number, but it was good. I can find it out for you.
But anyway, but I just want to say on record, thank you for the invite, and just let everybody know that it was donated back in the name of the commissioners. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Furr, and we do appreciate you giving it back in the name of the commissioners. Thank you. I do want to talk a minute about building permits of new homes. August 2021, total permits issued 57, value $8,300,000, and those are new tax dollars, folks. Average house 145,615. During August of 2020, there were only 25 permits issued. The value of those homes were like $154,000. January through August 2021, big number, 353 new home permits. 92% up from 2020, and 2020 was a good year. Total value, $66,927,000, up 116% over 2020. Average value of houses, $189,598, and that's probably because of building materials. So our building contractors are still busy, our subcontractors are busy, which makes a good economy for Stanley County. And I always like to look at these numbers because I think new home permits is a good indicator for how your economy locally is doing. And our economy is doing great. And I do know from my friend Commissioner Eford that Locust is getting their fair share, so I will mention that. 33 last month, so that's the month of August, right? Okay. So you did 33 out of 57, so that's good. Keep it going. That's all I have. Need a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor? Okay. Meeting adjourned.